Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Another episode, Mob Tales with Big Jimmy. Uh, we got a good one for y'all today, so strap on your seatbelt and hold on. Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Remember one thing, Mook, when we do this show, I speak the truth and I tell these stories because they gave me these stories. Whether they don't want me to tell them or not, I don't care. They gave this to me, so I want people to know the truth about who these people really are and the animals that they are. Sometimes I might not use somebody's name because I will gain nothing from it. But one thing I will let you know is that if I say they are what they are what they are. And this one is really an interesting story.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, a while ago, 1996, I just got a call to design a restaurant called Tusca. There was a lot of people involved. Chef Andrea, a couple of other people that were from Brooklyn, from clubs that were mob owned. And they wanted me to design. Actually, Rudy Giuliani was a member of the cigar club there. It was so beautiful. It had all stone and everything, but Rudy Giuliani loved it when he was mayor, and he went there frequently.
This is in Staten Island?
Staten Island, yes, off of Clove Road. People, if they hear this, they would remember the restaurant Tusca. It was very beautiful. It had all operatic people. It was the It was the opera of the Tuscany. It was named after that opera, which was done by Barcelli, and it actually was a play in the Metropolitan Opera, which I also did the restaurant in the Metropolitan Opera. But when I got the call, they're like, we want to make it theatrical and we want to do all this beautiful stuff. So they hired me. I designed it, laid it out. Really awesome place. Then all of a sudden, as we're building the place, I'm discovering who these people really are. And during the duration, there was frequent by many mob people. I got criticized because when the restaurant went out of business, they're saying, oh, every restaurant that I designed goes out of business. But since when does a design have to do with a restaurant? Well, to make a very brief analogy of what went down, when I completed the restaurant, it was a madhouse. You couldn't even get in. You had to make like a week's reservation. That's how crazy the restaurant was. People loved it. It was a different atmosphere, which I tried to create on anything I ever did as a theatrical designer. So all of a sudden, my wife gets her girlfriends and she said, Jim, is it okay if I go to Tusca with my guy? I said, yeah, absolutely. Have a good time. This is where the nightmare begins. This is where I see all these people come out of the woodwork. And actually what I should say is the sewer. And this is pertaining to a certain gentleman from the Gambino crime family who is now in hiding. So I'm going to mention his name, but I'm not going to mention anybody else's because they were only gentlemen to me. So my wife goes to the restaurant. She comes back. She said, oh, you had a good time? I actually got mad at my wife because she never told me this. So one of the owners who thought he was a big shot and a tough guy went up to my wife, and I found this out months later, and I was really upset at my wife. Why didn't you tell me this? Why did you not tell me this story? So she says that Phil, the owner, Farinacci, piece of garbage, and I'd be gladly telling to his face because the puke wouldn't do a thing to me. I'll knock his teeth out in 2 seconds. And anybody else who threatens me ever in my life again, I swore this to myself. So he tells my wife, he goes, hey, Gina, you're looking pretty good there. This is what he tells my wife. Now, my wife was a very sexy, beautiful woman. She was gorgeous. She's wearing, black, like a sparkly outfit, looked really sexy, her hair. And she was just going out for a good time. I was a very trusting person. She trusted me. I trusted her. And she was very loyal. But Phil, she goes to Phil. Phil, you look a little skinny. Are you okay? Is your health okay? She's like, back off. And he goes, not where it counts. If you ever want to check it out, let me know.
Mm.
Now, she finally told me this. It was a Saturday night. The place was mobbed, packed. Now, this is influenced by a couple of families and a couple of people. So I want to tell you my intelligence to these morons. I went there in the middle of the night. I waited for the place to get packed. The bar was packed. People are drinking. And he comes to the door and he has the nerve to say, hi, Jim. I grabbed him by the throat and I had his feet off the air and he's holding onto my hands. And I yelled at the top of my lungs. The whole place got quiet. The music came off. And I said, people, everybody in this restaurant, you see this piece of shit owner here? Watch your wives and your girlfriend around here. He tried to pick up my wife, explaining about his private part. And I dropped him. He fell and he landed on the floor. He was in shock. 2 days later, I get a phone call. Yeah, Jim, we need to talk. I said, no, I don't talk. I don't sit down. I'm not in your business. And I said, and whatever you got to say, stay out of it. Well, this piece of shit, Mikey Scars, who wound up becoming a rat and was a captain in the Gambino crime family, he actually says to somebody, yeah, you tell DeLuise he's not allowed in the place. My response to him is, you don't tell me where the fuck I go and where I hang out. And you're never going to explain to me anything ever in your fucking life. Do you hear me? Well, he invites me to his house to talk. I didn't say much. His wife was there and his family was there and his mother was there. And I don't disrespect in front of a woman. So lo and behold, he goes, Jim, you shouldn't burn bridges. And I said, my man, I'll blow up a bridge if I have a problem going over it because I never want to cross that path again. So he calls to a guy, hey, could we sit down and talk? Now, at this time, Phil never told him what he did with my wife. And if you know anything about mobsters, they don't like when you do personal things to family or children. And that's why even when we get to another story, you're going to hear something about my daughter, which was probably going to be the most disturbing thing I ever talked to you, Mook, about. So I go meet him and one of Gambino's grandsons, Carlo Gambino's grandson. I'm not going to mention his name. The puke knows who he is. So Mikey Scars is there and this guy, and he's going, Jim, I told you you're not allowed in this restaurant. I said, again, Mike, you don't tell me where to go. And I'm going to ask you a question, Mike, and I want you to answer it honorably. Okay? I said, what happens if somebody said this, and that, which is the story with Phil and my wife when he explained his private part to her. What happens if somebody did that to your wife? He goes, wow, whoa, what's going on? That's crossing the line. Yeah, big time crossing the line, wouldn't you think? Yeah, I agree with you. Okay. So then me and you and this guy have nothing else to talk about. And if you ever in your life try to contact me again and bring your friends, I'm letting a couple of people know about you. So if you think you got something in your mind that you're discouraged about how I talk to you, and you might have some idea, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I said, my friends are federal agents and cops and detectives, and his eyeballs lit up. I said, that's who my family is, and that's who I stand by the law. And I don't break no laws in here and try to rob people and become a millionaire, because that's what he had, a couple of $1 million house. So lo and behold, he didn't like that comment. I went right to his fucking house and I knocked on his door to talk to him. He was shocked. And behind me, I had a play mic. And he said, Jim, what are you doing here? I said, I heard you're looking for me. I heard you sent, well, people talk, Mike. I said, you got something to do. Come out your house right now and let's straighten it out like men. Instead of having your little sissy, coward, gun swinging fools do something. Because if you don't get me, Mike, I'm going to bash your door down with my truck. He looked at me in shock. Now you're dealing with these animals, you're building restaurants, you got to deal with these talking to you, and they make the rules. No. The law makes the rules. You're a part of the law, and if you don't follow it, that makes you a criminal, and that's exactly what they are. Well, this guy winds up being the biggest rat in the Gambino crime family. He ratted everybody out. So here he is telling me not to burn bridges, and meanwhile, he becomes right. And his nickname was Mikey Scars. I don't give a shit what people say. It's the truth. He gave me this, so I'm giving it to you.
Wow.
Lo and behold, I knew a guy. His name was Al. And this is the other family that's attached to them with another creep, Cosmo. Cosmo is a big jerk. I wanted to teach them a lesson, which I've done several times. And when we get into other stories, you're going to hear this. This is amazing. So I whispered into somebody's ear that knew this guy. And Al always treated me like a gentleman, and he was a true gentleman. He grabs Cosmo and this puke Phil. He takes him to the restaurant. And what I whispered in this guy's ear was to tell him the only reason why I didn't put Cosmo and Phil in the hospital is because of him. He loved it. Of course, they love that. They love that talk. You're respecting me or whatever. And Al was a great guy. He's a great guy. So he gets them in the room, and they're sitting there. And he says, because of me, this guy didn't kick the shit out of both of you because of me. And they love that. When you rank them, this guy's now on cloud 9. He takes his hand and he smacks both of them across the face at the same time.
Like the Three Stooges?
Like the Three Stooges, bro. Oh, and he told them, Phil and Cosmo both apologized to me. I'm very sorry. And I said to Phil, Phil, I don't accept your apology. I said, you're a lowlife and a creep because I would never do that with somebody else's wife, And you just don't do that. So there's a point that they have the respect of crossing the line, so to say, And Cosmo and Phil did, by explaining his private part to my wife. And it involved a lot of heavy people, which I was very, very taken back because here I am just designing and building a club and making a beautiful restaurant. I wasn't there to sit down and deal with mobsters and gangsters. And even when we were building the place, I had the same situation with guys coming in and threatening you and telling you that, we're going to bring our electrician in, we're going to bring our plumber in, we're going to take a piece of the job, we're doing this. And their whole situation and their whole scheme is redundant. It's the same thing. It's the same story. It's the same bull crap with involving hardworking, honest people into their world. That doesn't go on anymore because there's too many cameras around and there's too many rats and people, and it would be chaos. So they began a path of legitimacy, which, they're still not legitimate. Some of them are still wearing ankle bracelets in their house, and they can't leave their house unless they go to their parole officer. But it really bothered me, especially that my wife didn't tell me till months later. And it really bothered me to actually sit down with Gambino's grandson and Mikey Scars. And if they hear that, they know that what I'm telling is the truth, But they turned right around with great respect and honor for what they believe in, that you don't bring in people's wives and children and family, and you don't even bring in people that are not in the business. It's not effective. What I did by hanging Phil by his throat in the restaurant, packed with people, he deserved that. And would I do it again? I'd probably do it worse than I did now because of the buildup of frustration you have from these people. You know, after a while, you could think that you're tough and a mean person, but technically, they really are deep down inside cowards. Without a gun or without 20 of their friends around, they're cowards by themselves, complete cowards, and they know that. And it bothered me that through this whole plague of building this restaurant, I'm going and dealing with all these mobsters. And then at the end of after building this, you didn't even want to go back in the restaurant. You didn't want to be a part of it because you didn't want to even be around these people. And is it a stronghold for Staten Island? Absolutely. Are they still here? Absolutely. It's pretty wild to see how they've trying to establish into places that they want to take a piece of out of their pea-brain mindset to say that, you know, we're going to control everything that goes on and you're going to pay us X amount of money. We're going to make sure you don't have any problems. But meanwhile, here is this guy, Mikey Scars, who I defied, and I defy him again, but he can't defy anybody because he ratted so many people out. And here's this guy, and this is why I believe in karma, and this is why I say karma comes to us all, because the minute you put yourself in that situation, the wrong will always face the penalty, no matter what. The righteous shall always win. That's what I believe in, because my religion in karate is to believe in karma. And karma is, I won't go against somebody. You want to rob me? And it's a proven fact. So here's this guy, Mikey Scars, trying to think he's a big shot, and I'm sitting down. And meanwhile, he's shocked because nobody told him the truth. And without telling them the truth, they get pissed off. And let me tell you that they give this guy Cosmo and Phil a handful. And again, this is a restaurant. I mean, these guys are just, they're not human beings because they have no regard. If you died, they wouldn't give two shit. Yeah, okay, who cares? All right, let's, what are we getting for lunch? I mean, that's the way they were. You had the same people associated with this guy that were cutting people up in the 19th hole off of Dyker Park in Brooklyn. And meanwhile, they have an ear in his hand. He's putting it on the table, and the guy's head, and they're eating pizza and sandwiches. That's how cold and vicious these people are.
Wow.
Well, yes. Oh, bro, absolutely. And this was part of Mikey Scar's sanction. These are the people that this guy and Mikey Scars, if you want to call him a bad dude, I think he was a coward because all of a sudden the shit hit the fan and here he is ratting everybody out instead of, you know, again, or what you call a morte and the familia and all that crap. And they're burning the thing in his hand like big shots. But meanwhile, he just ratted out his whole crew and a bunch of other captains and people. And here I am, a guy that doesn't stand with anybody. I stand by myself. But as a karate and a disciplinarian, I'm not going to let nobody take me out or down. And, you know, when you bring your family or kids or wife into the picture, all of a sudden, the whole situation changes. And it's not, you know, hey, you embarrassed me, you know. Like these two idiots, Cosmo, idiot one, Phil Farinacci, idiot two, thought that they were behind the wheel and acting like tough guys. And if you really are anything, you're not going to act like a tough guy. And meanwhile, this is what I mean about karma. It bounced back in their face. And here's a guy, Mikey Scars, threatening me. Next minute, the shit hits the fan on him, and everybody's going to jail. And where is he now? Nobody knows because he's in witness protection program. But These are the people I had to deal with in my life, Mook. I mean, and in all practicality, you would say, oh, you know, an average contractor, I'm doing it. I never dealt with these people. Well, you also weren't building $1 million restaurants, you know?
Okay. Now, when you were building this restaurant, you know, you said, what's the name of it again?
Tusca.
Tusca.
Yes.
You said you noticed some things and you knew there was some shady business going on. Can you give a little examples of what
Oh yeah.
exactly was
As you're
going on?
building the place, you would see what we call the suits. All these guys are coming in and they're looking around and they're talking what I call out of the side of their mouth. Like, oh, this joint's going to be nice. Oh, this is going to be a nice place for us to hang out. And I'm saying normal people don't talk like that. So as the restaurant's progressing, I see more and more of these people coming in. Same way I had when was building my restaurant with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you last week, they're coming in the restaurant. We just want to earn. Can you imagine this?
Wow. So there was no dealings with the materials and stuff like that?
No. I was buying all the material. No, I'm sorry. What I was doing was overseeing the job and doing all the fancy details. They were paying me separately. They had their own crew doing the rough framing and the tile work, and it really was a very, very pretty restaurant. It really was, and it was well balanced. There wasn't one bad seat in the place. I had another area where we did a waterfall where water was in. They had this old. I made it look like an old grotto. And a lot of the wise guys that went there liked to sit near the grotto. They loved it. They loved the water. And I had actual outfits from the Tusca Opera. I went to the Metropolitan Opera and I got them. And my joke is that you had this chef, Andrea, who gets on TV or gets on the commercials, and when they have that stuff with the Channel 35, the common TV stations for the community stations, right? Is that what you would call it, Mook?
Yeah.
So
local networks.
Yeah, local network. I'm sorry. So here he is, and he gets on top of on this channel, and he says, "When me and my brother designed the great Tusca restaurant," I'm like, this guy didn't design the restaurant. He had nothing to do with it. He didn't even stay as a chef. The puke that he is. I mean, and this guy is a real puke. I can get more in detail with Nouveau Restaurant with him if you want to hear it, or what went down. And of course, I told you I sat down with Frankie Cali and all these people.
Mm-hmm.
I had to sit down in my restaurant over this puke, But it was really weird because you would before I approached Mikey Scars and Gambino's grandson, they were they're sitting back and they're smiling like, they don't know what's coming. But I know what's coming because I'm going to tell them what happened. So now they know. But when I shut them right up. They didn't know what to say. A matter of fact, Mikey Scars actually said, "I apologize." Because that's how, sometimes when you would call him a loyalist, I don't know if he's a loyalist. He wound up being a rat. So what kind of loyalty does he have? But the whole duration of the restaurant, I went there a couple of times to try the food. It was fucking horrible. The sauce was horrible. And he had this guy, Vinnie Aiello, who's a contractor on Staten Island, cooking in there, being a cook and getting a big contractor.
Is he related to our friend Danny Aiello? Rest in peace.
No. His name was spelled a little differently. He's another putz, But I'm trying to, and I never liked his food. And I'll be straight out with you. I built 100 restaurants. The food was horrible in the place. Really,
was it real Italians cooking, or was it like Spanish people?
Well, I wouldn't say it was Italian. They really implicated the Italian restaurant, the Tusca restaurant, but I just don't think that the guy cared. Or he was like being like a showman, walking out, talking to people. He had everybody in the kitchen, and he had a few cooks that were just horrible. That's why Vinnie Aiello is a contractor. He's not a cook anymore. Because if he was any good, he'd probably be doing Top Chef or something like that, But it's really funny because if you ever met Mikey Scars, he comes off like that swanky, mob guy. And let me tell you something, man, Jim, like a real tough guy. He'd say to you, Jim, who's a tough guy? I'm a tough guy. Could you imagine these people? This is what they try to do to intimidate. You know what I'm saying to myself? How I would love to knock your teeth right out of your mouth right now. You know.
So
But
he ratted on the whole.
he ratted on everybody. He
This was
ratted.
after getting the takedown of the Gambino, or was it on some other stuff?
Oh, it was Gambino family. Yeah, it was the Gambinos. You know. Yep, he was a rat. It's plain. You know, you could look up Mikey Scars, and I ask anybody that's listening to the show, look up the mobster Mikey Scars. Dealt with him many times, and yes, that's exactly what he is, a rat. And when you look up, you'll see the accomplishments of his deviant act against what he agreed to with these people, and you'll see the list of the people that he did in. You know, um, it really bothered me that, you know, even when you're building these things, that sometimes you have to deal with these people. And again, it's not everybody that deals with these people. I mean, they're not going to go after a guy that's doing a little concrete work or sidewalks or doing aluminum siding and roofing.
Mm-hmm.
There's really nothing challenging. If you remember in Brooklyn and the Bronx, they went after when Mayor Koch was doing the rehabilitations of all the buildings and the windows. They were putting all brand new windows to save on energy and blah, blah, blah. That's what these people got involved in. Oh, this is millions of dollars. This is millions of dollars. The same way they invaded the ICP building they did the same thing, you know.
So when you
and
grabbed
that
up,
was a conquest with that involved many people from different families. It was insane.
wow. So when you had
But,
this
you
known
know,
killer, this mobster, you had him up by the neck in the spot. Like after you put him down, what went down? He just walked out with his tail between his legs. Like what? This guy's a wannabe tough guy. How did that transpire?
yeah, well, he was not a wise guy. He just had wise guys behind him. And sometimes when you tell these idiots, hey, we're behind you, you have any problem, you let us know. They throw him whatever, a piece of change. Who cares? Everybody knows this shit. And I'm not saying anything, you know, not getting anybody in trouble because who gives a shit? It was a while ago. But they start to act like they're tough guys and wise guys. That's the difference. And that's what he thought. He thought he was protected. But then he ran into Jimmy D'Alessio. Then he ran into me. Not a coward, not a follower. I'm a leader, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And living with honor, you cannot take that away from a person like me. And I've literally beat up 8 guys at one time by myself. So they know that I'm a psycho. They know that the word on the street about me was, yeah, Jimmy knows his place, but don't fuck with him. I know my place. I'm just telling you, don't fuck with me because I don't give a shit. I'll run you over with my truck. I will. Right. I almost did it in a diner, Russo's Diner on Highland Boulevard. I saw a guy, a wise guy that owed me a lot of money. It took a worker to not turn my truck because it was a big glass window from floor to ceiling. And that's how much I lost my mind, that these people drove me crazy my whole life. Wow. Fighting, especially dudes like Phil Mancuso. Should I say God rest his soul? No. He died alone. He died as karma took him, you know. Mm-hmm. Put me down. He's a multimillionaire and he's keeping me from working. That's a story about Paul Fabozzi's house, because all this shit connects with people. Because, you know, and it's the same thing with cops. And I want to tell you what happened with this situation with Mikey Scars. Because I was getting involved in doing a strip club. Mm-hmm. And it was in Brooklyn. And they wanted me to redesign it. They're all connected to each other. And this guy, this puke of a guy, is trying to tell me how I should put the place together. I shook his hand and I left. But I wanted to prove a point. There was a guy selling drugs in a strip club. We don't have to mention no names. Why? It doesn't matter. But it is the truth. And this guy that was doing that was a so-called friend of mine. And Anthony Scarito, piece of crap, piece of shit. I helped him get a $40,000 job, and he told an owner of a restaurant, who happens to be friends with Mikey Scars, that I was robbing him. Could you imagine that? Jealousy. This is the jealousy I got to deal with. So, as I was saying, I went to my cousin who happens to be in law enforcement, and I whispered in his ear something. And I wanted to prove a point to him because we were sitting down talking, and he goes, and this is going to very, very true. He goes, Jim, come on, law enforcement, legal people, they're not involved with these people. I said, oh, no. Well, I told him about this guy dealing drugs in the club. And I said, tell a law enforcement cop or give it to a person that's in that task force or give it to the DA. You know what happened? There was no arrest. They didn't look into it. Law enforcement whispered in the owner's ear, and next minute, Anthony Scarito was booted out of the place. So this is the tender of the lies that go on with all these people. Yes, they're very well connected with cops and lawyers and even judges. Very much factual. That's why I warn people and tell people, you stand up for yourself. You fight, you give it to them and put them in a position where they can't back out of. You see how fast they run, because they don't want trouble. And today, who needs it? You drive down the street, we have God's eyes, if you know what God's eyes are. That guy just got caught shooting that guy up the street from me. And they had him on camera. They got him going in his car. So wherever we go, there's cameras all over the place, Mook. That's why. We can't kill that guy. I would love to kill that guy, but I can't anymore. That's the talk out of their mouth. And these are the people that were associated with this guy, Mikey Scars. So I knew my situation that I could, hey, they don't care if my father-in-law's a chief detective or my cousins and uncles and brothers are all cops. They didn't care about that. But when I let them know that I'm letting them know of the situation, do you think they want repercussions and people following them and making them a target?
No.
So psychologically, I painted something in their head so they would cut their authority against me right in half. Mm-hmm. And so there was no way that I knew this puke of a rat was not coming back after me, because he really, in the back of his mind, he was reluctant to say, hey, this guy's got a point. I don't need them following me. I love my house. I got a beautiful wife. Mikey Scar's wife was absolutely a knock-dead gorgeous woman. She probably still is. She was amazing. And instead, this is what this guy's doing. He gets in trouble and afraid of somebody going with his wife, which another wise guy wound up doing. As soon as he got arrested, because she didn't go with him.
Wow.
Didn't go with him. But when this guy started threatening me, and he had boys in the back, like they were all like staring at me, like trying to scare me, I told him right to his face, I said, Mike, you don't know me. I said, you really don't. After I told him about my kids, I said, see how long you were here and I'm still talking to you like a gentleman? But I'll tell you right now, every one of these guys, I'll remember their faces. And I'm telling you right now, if I see any one of them near me, I'm coming directly for you. I'm going to bypass all these pukes. He said, pukes? I said, yeah, pukes. Because you're a puke too, Mike. You ain't no man. You ain't no gentleman. Or you wouldn't be going to jail. He had the problem at the time, but then all of a sudden, he became this big, big rat. That's what he did, man. Yeah, here's this guy. Yeah, I don't know if you know what you're dealing with here, but I'm a capo. Okay, that's what he said to me. I said, I'm sick of you people. I really am. Here you are, completely wrong. You're still trying to defy me and put me down and ridicule me. Mm-hmm. And I said, I wasn't born yesterday, but I stood up to every one of them my whole life. I never paid them any money. And they tried. When there's a story I brought up to you that I gave you a list of stuff, that's Vinnie Nunes. That story is probably the most interesting story of this whole thing. But was I directly linked to these people? Absolutely. Absolutely, unfathomably, was I part of this situation because of what I did for a living. Mook, you worked with me on the cutting room, right?
Yeah, he did big jobs. Was in the city.
Yeah, bro, you know that guy Mike. I don't know if you knew the guy Wayne. Remember the bald-headed guy Wayne?
Yeah,
He tried to infiltrate and get his boys in the place. Could you imagine this? There's
he
nothing
seemed
but
like
cops that,
he
yeah,
seemed like
yeah. I got a hold of him, another jealous creep. He does sheetrock and tape and big deal. Every single person on this earth does that, and to impress me, you better do something really awesome
if you remember, he
because,
said something crazy. I think he probably said N word or something weird, and I had to check him, and he got real humble and quiet because I
oh,
was
that's right, Mook with
crashing.
you. That's right. And
Yeah,
you know what? And Mook, that's right. You knew Wayne. I forgot that situation. I apologize.
yeah, I was
But
gonna
what
hurt him.
he said to you, did you know what I did to him? He was gone after that, remember?
Yeah, yep. Hey,
Yeah,
we got it. Yeah, he was gone. You got rid of him, but we got a little
yeah.
situation. James
Oh,
Hudson.
yeah. I went like this to him. I want to let you know what I said. I said, hey, Wayne, how you doing? Can I meet you? I didn't want to talk to him on the phone. Yeah, Jim, sure. I'd like to meet you. Well, I got him. I met him. We were going into the diner, but I didn't even want to sit down with the puke. I said, what'd you say to Mook? He started. I said, you didn't say nothing? Oh, so then my friend Mook is a liar? I said, let me tell you something, bro. That guy's my brother. I love that guy. That guy's one of my dearest friends on this earth. And guess what? You're out of here. Don't
He didn't even
ever
say
in your life. And guess what? Oh, yeah, bro. Listen, I want to tell you how smart I am. I set that puke up when I was working. Remember that company we were working in the city?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I set him up with that company knowing that he's a fuck up because that other guy was screwing with me and wound up putting them out of business. Wayne put them out
Yeah,
of
I remember
business.
that. Fucked him. James
Yeah.
Hudson. He likes this. He likes this show. He's always tuning in. He asked. He got a question. Why did the mob dump so many bodies in the East River and out on Long Island?
In the East River?
Yeah,
In Long Island?
in the East River and out on Long Island.
Oh, it's really, look, these guys would take a path that is not going to bring presidents to the cops and law enforcement and people. So you could take a family car, you throw a body in the trunk, and you take them out to Long Island. A lot of Long Island is woods and brushes and weeds. And really, if you're not speeding, the Nassau and Suffolk police are not going to pull you over. They really are professionals. And again, if you're speeding, you're going to get pulled over. So you're a bunch of guys, you're driving. Long Island was a perfect place, and the East River was a perfect place because of the occurrence. And they could easily wash away and they could easily be dumped because along the FDR Drive, it's very easy. It really is very easy, especially on the lower half. A lot of parks are closed late at night. So, yeah, that was a great spot. There also was the Marshes in Brooklyn. And this is off of, I guess, East New York. There was a lot of marshes. They buried a lot of bodies there because you would pull up these dirt roads. And it was so convenient for them to just back up and toss them in the marsh because they would sink. The East River, one of the most aggressive currents in the world, you're gone. You're going out. Next minute, you might be in England if you make it, if the sharks don't get you. But yeah, the East River was really just a great place. And Long Island, hey, you know what? You had a lot of guys from a lot of things that would cut up bodies, put them in bags, throw them in the back of a car. And Long Island, again, you're not getting hassled. You can't be in the city. They see a mysterious car or a bunch of guys in a car and you're in the city and there's cops all over the place. And there's what we called watchers. There was street cops were watchers. They were there for a reason. And so it was really tough. A lot of times they lured people out to Long Island. They were dumping bodies. They weren't taking the bodies, sort of say out there. It's like, hey, they used your best friend to kill people in the mob. So they would hey, buddy, pal, they put your arm around you and you're going out for a ride. Oh, we're going to this park thing. And you don't know. These guys are your friends. They're your buddies. And next minute, you're shot in the back of the head and you're dumped inside the woods where either they only find you if a guy gets caught and he rats everybody out. And then, hey, the body's over here, which is how they find the bodies. That's the only way.
Mhm.
Other than that, the guys that are careless and reckless will dump the bodies right on the side of the street.
Mm.
There was one guy who I met a few times, and that's Tommy Karate.
I was about to ask. I was about to get into that because Staten Island, he used Staten Island, didn't he? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, they buried they said a lot of the concrete spears at Scaramix was, but what it wasn't. You know, they were, people speaking hypothetical, making up stories, but it's not stories. Scaramix was a great company, and the owners, Scaramella, are beautiful people, and they're very well secured and established, and they were not doing that stupid shit or allowing it. And I really got annoyed because, it's storytelling. But
Tommy
you
Karate.
know what yeah,
Oh,
Tommy Karate was a ruthless person. Yeah, you can look him up, Tom. I'm giving you these names: Mikey Scars, Tommy Karate. Tommy Karate will never get out of jail. He must have committed hundreds of murders. I met him a couple of times. Never bothered me. Was very nice to me, but whew, a psychopath. His cousin thinks he's going to get out of jail, but there's no way. That guy's gone and done. And it's just real. I think back of like all these people I met, and all these things. Of course, I'm out of the picture now because I stopped building restaurants mainly because of this shit. I really got, I got even going to Manhattan and doing the Cutting Room or Comics Comedy Club, and I built major places. I was a major player in that business. Not only Staten Island, but Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Jersey. This is not a joke. I did places in Florida. I did stuff in Ohio. I was sent pretty much all over the place. Not bragging about it. I never talk about it. You know that, Mook. I don't bring it up unless somebody brings it up to me.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was bad. I mean, and what was the gentleman's name that asked the question?
James Hudson. He's out of California.
His name is Jimmy?
James Hudson. He's out of California.
Oh, he's out of California. Hey, James, man, you Californians didn't have it that crazy. It was, here and there, but they were a little more smarter businessmen than the Vegas guys and the New York and Chicago criminals. But New York is notorious for a burial site. They estimated that Staten Island has over 300 buried bodies, And I had seen a couple of those bodies from Wolves Pond Park. I don't know if you remember that guy, Alphonse, Gus Ferrace. Gus Ferrace, actually, here's a guy that's supposed to be classy and he didn't like gay people. Well, they wound up having sex with this kid, and then they killed him, and they left him in Wolves Pond Park. So I know there's a lot of bodies there. One of my friends got burnt there and killed.
But didn't Tommy Karate dump his bodies over in Staten Island? He didn't go.
Oh man, yeah. Well, Tommy Karate just shot people and left them there.
Oh, okay.
He ran into an apartment building, didn't ask any questions, knocked the door down, went right in the room where the girl was because he thought she was a rat, shot her right in the head, and walked right out. Oh. But did you ever hear of Tommy Karate?
Yeah, I thought he was dumping bodies in the woods in Staten Island.
Oh yeah, big time, man. Oh yeah, absolutely. He was a complete hitman. He was a hitman. He's a killer. He's nothing more. He wasn't a brainstormer. But he got so reckless and out of control, he thought he was above the law. Nobody's going to fuck with me. When they got a hold of him, man, he got, I think, 10 life sentences. But that was the tip of the iceberg because, man, he was just, I can't describe his demeanor, but when you looked at him, you knew this guy had no fucking soul. He just literally had no soul. He was cold all the time. He was a killer all the time. His whole mental mind, and that's what these were. These New York mobsters were killers. They they didn't care. Nobody realizes that. Now it's not like it was in the '70s and the '80s. I witnessed brutal murders. Like they were. Look, you remember the guy that got killed in the back of the restaurant?
Mm-hmm.
That mobster.
Who got left with the car?
What the hell is it?
Oh,
I forget his name. Damn it, I forget his name. But they went blatantly right in the back of the restaurant, boom, 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 blew the owner away, blew the cousin away, blew the bodyguard away, and shot him 15 times till he was dead, and then walked right out. They knew they were hitmen that were brought in from Italy, because a lot of the hitmen they did bring in, a lot of guys that they think killed here were not real. I mean, Albert Anastasia was, but they were bringing a lot of people in. And if anybody doesn't know this, they're going to find out now. But a lot of mobsters hired Texan murderers, a lot of guys from Texas to come in and do hits and then leave,
Wow.
And they knew that. They found that out. Oh, yeah, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. But anything that they were hitting in California were Texan murderers or Kansas City murderers. You really want to find from New York, really there was New York and Chicago that flipped, but then there was Kansas and California and Texas and Kansas, and they called them the circles. But yeah, the people from New York were hiring people from Texas hitmen.
That's amazing.
There's more probably Texas hitmen in the United States than anywhere else, and that any mobster. And that's a fact, man. I was reading up a lot about that, and it was pretty strange, But you didn't really have that stuff in California, James. But witnessing the '70s and the '80s, I don't know how old you are, but I was born witness to a lot of these murders in the '80s, and DeChico and this one getting killed. And DeChico was probably the most ruthless murderer out of them all. But they wound up killing him because if they got a hold and he became a rat, he would have took down everything and everybody. Because back then they said, hey, you want to use my guy? You could use, let him do they ask favors, and they try to keep. Of course, man. Hey, look, we're trying. All right, listen, I need a little hit. I need a little job done. All right, I know what you mean. Then next minute, they whisper in this guy's ear. That guy sends the message to him. He knows who it is. This is the information, and the guy does his thing. But, man, so I don't know.
My bad.
What?
So you mentioned.
No, I don't know how many.
Go ahead.
What?
You got a delay or something.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how many people are buried on Staten Island. And there was a lot of murders. I mean, I remember I was young. I was a teenager. No, I was 17. I was 18 years old. And John Gotti came onto Staten Island and killed Brannigan. Right in the club that I used to, 18 years old was a legal age to drink. And, we weren't into all that stuff. We smoke a little weed, we hang out, we played music. I played in groups and bands, and played music. I was playing guitar since I'm 5 years old. So, I wasn't into all to that, but I very much frequent the place where McBratton got killed by Gotti. He came right on Staten Island. Him and Rizzo, the guy who, not Rizzo, that heavyset guy, I forget his name. It was a while ago, of course, but next day we're waking up and I'm like, holy shit, we were just in there the other day. And I know a couple of people that were there that night and watched the shooting right in the fucking club, man. Wow. So it's brazen. Do we have that brazen? Yeah, it's kind of like, in a heavy crowd, you don't really see who shot the gun or this one. But this place was not like a packed place. It was during the week,
So how did you meet Tommy Karate? You mentioned that Were you guys in business
Just
with the
from building
restaurant?
just from building restaurants, coming in with his friends, looking around. Oh, hey, this is Tommy Karate. Oh, wow, okay, Tommy Karate. That's I met him. Yeah. Do I know him personally? Absolutely not. But did I meet him? Yeah.
Wow.
But Mook, when you build, you know, 50 restaurants on Staten Island, people kind of get to know you. And you have this small kind of fame. People know who you are. Oh yeah, hate. How many people hate me? They're jealous of me. Yeah, that guy's a jerk. Yeah, I heard he got kicked off that job. What am I going to tell you? Yeah, I got kicked off the job. Ooh, they booted me right out. They opened the doors, held my hand, and they kicked me out on by my ass. Yeah, you meet these people, man,
Yeah, you know
because
a lot of
the
people like that.
restaurant influence, the restaurant business is an influence to a lot of these people. I mean, I met Big Ange. I met uh, Abner Rowena, that cop that shot that poor guy, shoved that pole up his butt. What kind of creeps are? I don't give a shit if you don't like anybody. You do your fucking job and you shut your fucking mouth. But be honorable. These people are not honorable. They're trying to rob you. They're trying to say, I had a guy one time, which we'll get in the story of Vinnie Nunez, who brought me to a place and a club where feds were watching the place. And this guy, Vinnie Nunez, brings me to the guy. And you know what he said? I saw him say it to him. Could we grab this guy? No, they didn't grab me. They tried to grab me, but wasn't working out too good. And again, I tell these stories because they gave me these stories, and I have a right to tell them. Do you think I'm wrong, Mook, by telling the truth and telling what
Truth,
I experienced with these animals?
must be heard.
Yeah, even with the garbage business, even in the garbage business, buying containers, it was mayhem. It was crazy. Who's
Man,
threatening who? Who's trying to get a vegetable account? You know how many times I was threatened in my restaurant with linens and we're going to be in the account. Next minute, I'm fighting 5 guys going to collect money at a club I did, Bistro, right down the street from my restaurant up the street in Nuvo. And then I'm going to the Eclipse because they still owed me money. And this is my traveling, going around the restaurants because I help them,
sound like a
Even
wise
when I
guy.
build
I'm
Atlantis, I
joking,
charge them.
but
Yeah, they're all,
yeah, you got your service getting bad. I
They,
don't know what happened.
it's terrible, man. It was terrible. I went through a lot of hell in my life, especially, I was studying how to design and build restaurants, studying architecture, trying to be a good, decent person. You hated, you mocked. Oh, this guy, yeah, that guy sucks. That place sucked. He's a jerk. Yeah, I heard he's an asshole. Oh, I heard he owes everybody money. It's a storytelling fantasy. Same thing like Ronnie One Arm. I have no idea who this guy is, but his name was Ronnie One Arm.
Yeah,
He never met me. I never met him, but he said to this girl, Charlene, and because I didn't like her and I didn't want to go out with her because she was fooling around with every wise guy out there. Let me tell you something. He goes to this girl, Charlene, and says, yeah, I just met that guy, Jimmy, from Nouveau Restaurant. Yeah, we took care of him. We slapped him around a little bit. And so, and she said, you didn't see Ronnie One Arm, Jimmy? I said, no. Who the hell is he? Oh, you don't know who he is? No, I never met him. Well, he said he met you and he did this. Well, he said, if you could tell Ronnie, this is what I told her to tell Ronnie. This is a capo now. I said, could you please tell Ronnie One Arm to come to my restaurant and tell him if he comes in, he's going to be Ronnie No Arms. She goes, you want me to tell him that? I said, I want you to tell him exactly like that. Because I never met him. And if he's talking so tough, let me see him do it to my face. Mm-hmm. I hated them. I began a hatred towards them because people are afraid of them. And out of fear, you would listen to that person. Mm-hmm. If you're afraid, Mook, and I tell you, don't use that guy Deloise or this guy's no good. That was the same thing with the Fabosi house. Well, when I talk to you about the Fabosi house and the neighbor, isn't directly involved.
Yeah, I was there, part of that.
Yeah, you saw that. Yeah, Mook, that's right. You experienced, Mook. I don't realize all the jobs you experienced with me. You saw what I was going through with that neighbor, right?
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Man, Jimmy, another one, another great show. Mob Tales. A lot of good information coming out, man. This is entertaining, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, bro, anything for you, man.
And y'all stay tuned. Big Jimmy got a lot in store for y'all, and that's for sure. Shout out to James Hudson, John Mikes, and everybody else that's tuning in. Sorry, I gotta go, but this was a good episode, and that's how it is. Big Jimmy, Mob Tales. Peace
Bless
out.
everybody.